What is going on, guys? Today we're gonna look at Kwang. This build is adapted from JLeo's Kwang build. I found I didn't really like certain things for his build, and it might be because we both have different playstyles, and this is something I encourage you to do as well. One build won't suit everyone, so adapt it slightly to your specific style. The build is the same at the mid and late game, it's just how we get there is different. I'll go over the build and then I'll give you a little rundown of some tips on how to play Kwang and how to get the most out of him as a jungler. So we start with the Centurion as your prime card. Personally, I think all fighters should have the Centurion as their prime card. We then have 2 strike tokens and a vampiric elixir. Assassin's Ward is our early game ward, a Beastmaster's Scythe for that jungle clear, Brawler's Ward for our dummy ward at the start, followed by Bloodsoak Armor, which has an active ability that says for 6 seconds when hit by a basic attack, apply a bleed stack to attacker. You want to throw 3 Divine Guards into your Blood-Soaked Armor. Elder Mage is next with 3 lesser healths, followed by our final late game Sage's Ward with 2 greater healths and a major cast. We then have 2 Void Steel Daggers, both with 3 minor casts, as well as a Whirling Wand also with 3 minor casts. Finally, we have 2 identical Windcarver Blades, both with 2 major casts and a major kinetic, and that's the build. Now before we get started, probably the most important thing as a jungler is, surprise surprise, the jungle. How quickly and efficiently you can clear the first few camps can set you up for a fantastic start or a potentially devastating one. So allow me to show you the jungle route that I use, because it allows me to get all my camps, get the green buff and be on time for the river. You start with this white camp here, move on to your green, then onto your next white camp, finally the furthest white camp, and you want to do this white camp near the amber link and you're good to go for the river buff. This is what I find works best. It might be different for another hero. I haven't really tested every jungler, but I like this start for Kwang. Ideally you want to take his E ability first, as this gives you some sustain, followed by his right mouse button ability to help you clear faster. You also need to be kiting the camp so that you can keep your health pool relatively high. If you contest the river buff with low health and the enemy mid laner rotates, you could be in serious trouble. Once you've grabbed the river buff, you can attempt to gank middle or one of the side lanes, or even continue clearing your jungle. Okay, so you know how to clear the jungle. Now let's start right at the beginning. You want to drop a dummy ward on the enemy green buff if possible, but dropping a ward on the river is also fine, just don't die for it. It helps your mid laner out and you can see if anyone is going to make rotations in the early stages. You then grab your Beastmaster's Scythe after selling your dummy ward and get into position for your first white camp. A good jungler is constantly applying pressure. In a sense, you want to try and suffocate the enemy by restricting their mobility and options around the map. A good jungler will strike fear into the enemy, which often means they're less willing to engage you, invade your jungle, gank your allies, and are more likely to make mistakes. This in turn opens you up for more aggressive opportunities. Now you might be asking, but how do I strike fear into the enemy? Invading the enemy jungle is one of the ways. At lower elos when I'm smurfing, something I rarely see is the enemy jungler invading. Invading is like a double win, assuming you don't die. You not only get yourself ahead, but you put the entire enemy team behind. Remember, the amber link is distributed to the entire enemy team. If you take camps, then that isn't being contributed to the amber link, and if you attack the amber link, then none of them are getting that CXP. And when the jungler comes back, he'll see that his camps are gone, and psychologically he's either really mad that you stole his camps, or now worried because he's going to be even more behind. This allows you to increase your farm, and the more farmed you are, the more scarier you are. Another way to strike fear into the heart of the enemy is to constantly apply map pressure. Again, something I see at the highest level on my main, but not a lot of in lower elos, is the constant map pressure from the jungler. You overextend for a few seconds, you better believe that you're going to be punished, and that's exactly what you need to be doing. If you see the enemy carry pushed out even a little from their tower, you should engage. And yes, you might not always get the kill, but he's going to be worried next time he pushes out from his tower. This suffocates him. He won't push that far next time, meaning he won't get more farm, so he'll go to the jungle, but you've already invaded that, so he's falling behind while your team and you are getting ahead. Just remember that I'm not trying to encourage you to gank 24/7. Finding the right balance between farming and applying map pressure is what separates the good junglers from the great, and this is something you will learn as you play more and start to consciously think about the points I've made in this video. For example, a lot of people that I coach, their biggest question when I explain invading the enemy jungle is when to invade. There is no single answer, but logically, if you see the enemy jungler on the other side of the map, you're pretty free to invade, and likewise if he is dead. If the enemy jungler is significantly behind, then you can also invade, assuming that your team will back you up should his team rotate. You can very easily 1v1 him, so as long as there's no rotations, you're pretty safe. If you manage to kill the enemy mid laner, you and your mid laner can go and empty their amber link. There are plenty more scenarios, but you'll learn more as you go. Now the counter to this is that you have to remember, if you show too long on one lane, then you're providing the enemies with valuable information. The enemy jungler has the same opportunity you do. He can take your jungle, and that's why you'll very rarely catch me sitting in a lane under a tower for extended periods, because really, unless you're saving the tower, you could honestly be doing better things. If the enemy constantly have vision of you, you can't scare them because they know where you are. But if you're popping up in and out of vision, only appearing to maybe gank or push an objective, they're gonna be pretty scared because you might appear at any time. Okay, so we've talked in general about what you need to be doing, but let's talk specifically about Kwang. You ideally want to engage without having to use your tether, unless you know that a tether plus your ult plus maybe an auto attack and ability will be enough to secure the kill, especially on a hero like Murdoch who can knock you back. If you run up to them, then they'll most likely panic and use their knockback, and this gives you the opportunity to use your tether. I personally like to max out my tether ability first, because every time you level it, the tether duration increases, and while them being tethered for long might not benefit you individually, if you have an ally doing damage and securing the kill, it's pretty useful. So unlock my E first, followed by my right mouse button, and then tether. So my tether is my last to be unlocked, but my first to be upgraded. Then I'll max my right mouse button or E depending on how the game is going. Remember that Kwang's right mouse button is not just an offensive ability, it provides you with armor, so using it to buff yourself to reduce incoming damage is actually a good idea. With regards to the build order, you obviously want to take a dummy ward first, discard that once you've placed it for your Beastmaster's Scythe. I then like to take my ward, but if I find that the early game is pretty chaotic with a lot of team fights, I'll either go for a Whirling Wand or a Void Steel Dagger. I'll then max out my cheaper cards and then go into my blood-soaked armor, followed by the more expensive cards like my Windcarver blades. A more detailed build order is listed in the description below. The only active in this build apart from wards, which I presume you all know how to use, is blood-soaked armor, but before we do talk about that, let's quickly go over wards. Ward your jungle and the enemy jungle when possible. Also warding the river buffs and prime, especially in the late game, is crucial. I personally like to focus on warding the enemy jungle and my green buff, but if your allies need help or are constantly being ganked, dropping a ward to keep them safe is a smart thing to do. You want to pop your blood-soaked armor as soon as you get into a fight. People rarely notice that it is active in a chaotic team fight, and you can get some tremendous value. Don't worry too much about holding on to it, just use it whenever possible. I'll be the first to admit that sometimes I forget to activate my blood-soaked armor, but this comes with playing Kwang a lot and using this build. Kwang synergizes with a lot of heroes, so if you're planning to try him out with your friends, picking heroes like Faye, Gadget, Gideon and Howitzer is a good choice. This is because his tether holds a hero in place for a long time, allowing you to get good value from AoE ults. With the Faye's ult, if she manages to catch 2 or 3 people, you have an easy time getting even more value from your ultimate. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, a link to the build is in the description below. Let me know which heroes you want me to cover next in the comment section. Smash that thumbs up button, stay subscribed for all the latest Paragon content, and until next time guys, peace.